That's a very good question. In terms of cold email, I would say the basic premise of it is reaching out to another person in communication via email. Just like in today's world, you have Instagram, you got Facebook, you got X, previously known as Twitter. And within all of those platforms, you have a direct message where you reach out to another person and you send them a message directly. It's the complete same thing with cold email. And if you remember, beforehand, it was originally cold email or just email in general, right? You're trying to reach out to another email address with the intent of either trying to communicate something or trying to pass a message. It's the exact same thing. The only difference with what we do in terms of cold outreach is when we reach out to another person via cold email, we now allow ourselves to be in front of the decision makers rather than going through multiple gatekeepers. So to simply explain this to you, let me put you in two scenarios. Scenario A, your traditional method where you call a property or a company, and then the front desk asks you, okay, who are you trying to reach out to? I'm trying to reach out to your boss, to your manager, to your director, right? To your president, whoever that is. And then the gatekeeper will be like, okay, no, she's not available. No, she's not busy. She's not available. Can I call you back? Things like that. You basically have to get past that before you even reach out or get the chance to speak with the decision maker. The only difference with this is that if you could find a way to reach out to that decision maker without these gatekeepers, you're allowing yourself to be in front of it, say what you have to say, and get an instant feedback, whether it's a yes or no. In our case, we sell our services via cold email. And what we sell as well is cold email. Well, how do we know it? How do we know if it works? We're doing it for ourselves. So we are literally applying the same principles, strategies, how we do it on our own business and passing it to our clients. So in an example where a security guard company would come to us, we would take them on board with them, and the purpose of the security guard is to sell their services. Well, how do security guards sell their services? They have to place bids, get in contracts, send quotes, things like that. Well, how do we help them then? We can help the decision makers of certain properties meet with security guards, connect them together. If they come to a sales appointment, the security guard company can send a code and they will take it over from there, do the expertise. They can basically close the deal and get the return overall. So that's how we do it with cold email. That's the complete overview and a simple explanation on the traditional way versus how we do it. That's a very interesting question. Now, within the most recent months, there's been some changes in the cold email space, and some of you might even know it. But in terms of getting a successful cold email campaign running, you have to look at three main things. First is deliverability. Before you even send a cold email, is your emails even sending to the right inbox? Or are you landing in the spam folder? So that's the thing, right? So because with cold email, another factor that you have to consider is your volume. Are you sending enough emails to your ideal customer profile to get a chance to meet with them specifically, right? Because in some way, it's volumes game. So you have to send a bunch of emails so that at some point within those, there's enough conversions that you could make to get an appointment, right? So before you even hop onto that and discussing your numbers, well, wait, how can I compute my email to booking ratio if I don't know if my emails are sending in the first place? So you got to check things like setting up your DKIM, SPF, DMARC, technical stuff, and you got to make sure that your deliverability is being safe, sending plain text, so things like that. There's a ton of deliverability practices online that you could find, but there's definitely, you have to check, you have to make sure that you are landing on the right inbox, okay? Now, the next thing is your email list. This is very important and probably the most important one out of the three. Well, they're all important, just to state my statement clear, right? Now, the reason why the cold email list is very important is because you have to target the right people or the right decision makers when you're saying stuff, okay? Let's give you a random example. If I am selling a franchise, I have to reach out to prospects that would be interested in franchising whatever I'm selling, right? So that alone, it's a simple statement, but some overstate it because they don't know who they're targeting, okay? So you have to be clear. What am I selling? Okay. What industries would benefit to what I'm selling? Maybe it's retail, maybe it's logistics, maybe it's warehousing, things like that, right? So you have to make that clear. Now, within your previous clients or your current customers, what are the usual employee counts on this, right? Now you're trying to build out the list. Let me clearly define who I want to target within this email campaign, right? And you could add keywords, okay? Now, if you got those straight up, who are you going to reach out to? What decision makers is that? Are you reaching out to the VP of sales, head of marketing, things like that? Are you reaching out to the founder directly? So you got to make those things correctly in order for you to send the right messages to the right person and land on the right inbox. That's why we're going to the third part. On the third part, I went through deliverability, email list, and the third part would be your messaging. Because if you know you are now sending correct emails on the right inbox, right? You know who to send it to. It's pretty much straightforward on what you're going to say to them. You have something to sell, a product or a service that you have to offer, okay? Well, how do you make it interesting or valuable to the other end? Maybe you could try different email copywriting. You could try one-liners, two-liners, right? Now, you could try direct pitch. There's different types of emails copy that you could try out there, but if you got those three straight, it's pretty much straightforward because now you're landing on the right inbox, you're reaching out to the right people, and you also got the messaging correctly. So if you got those three right, you're good to go. You can now launch your email campaigns. That's a very good question. Now, in terms of grabbing attention, here's a few things that I keep in mind before even writing a cold email. Well, the basic premise of it is you have to know who you are sending to at the first place. I have to know if I'm reaching out to the president, I have to tailor my words now the way I speak to them. Do I have to be straightforward? Do I have to be casual? Do I have to be professional? Things like that, right? You can only adjust your tone and the way you write the words based on knowing who you're even talking to in the first place. Because once you know that, you can now tailor that towards your messaging. So you got to know who you're targeting first. And I wanted to dig deep into this point as well because on certain industries, you have multiple terminologies, keywords that they use that could be different along each one of them. Let me give you an example, right? With security guard companies, how they call a security, what they call a sales appointments, or some may call it sales meetings, or maybe a bookings. What we call in the security industry is it's a security assessment, right? Or in short, it's sales appointments, basically. But in the security world, we call it security assessment, right? Now, the way you analyze your messaging is to know what type of keywords do the usual person in this industry look for, right? So maybe if you're in the recruiting space, maybe that's a different term that you got to research. So, but it all starts on knowing who you target, right? So dial in, who do I target? Okay, now what's the keywords and usual phrases that they use that I could write towards my emails, And then you can find their pain points. Because now you are thinking, okay, I'm speaking to this person, this is the words that they use. Now how can I intrigue their attention is to know their pain points. So if you know the type of pain points that they're experiencing, you can now tailor that to your copy, use the words so that in front of them you are a professional or a person who has an experience in that industry. Then therefore they would reply to you and watch your responses go high, right? So if you got those nailed down, it's what I'm just expanding to it, but the whole point of writing an email copy is knowing who you're reaching out to in the first place. So the more that's dialed in, then the more that you could tailor the copy to that specific audience. On what I like to do on my agency is I like to do segmenting. So what I mean is, if I have multiple audiences, can I specifically segment them into each buckets, right? So let's give you an example. If I'm trying to reach out to marketing agencies, okay, well, there's different marketing agencies. Are they doing paid ads? Are they doing SEO? Things like that, right? You can now place them into a different buckets, but they're still in the same category, marketing agencies, but different buckets. Within those buckets, you can now use their terms, right? So with SEO, keyword research, things like that, right? Looking to improve their Google rankings, right? So things like that. You have to do some research in each bucket so that when you launch your campaign, in front of their eyes, you did your research, you made your effort, and it would look personalized on their end, right? So that's how you write a cold email campaign, is pretty much by knowing who you're sending the email to at the first place. When crafting cold emails, here are the common mistakes that I see with my previous experience and also with some of the clients that I previously worked with. They try to personalize everything. They try to give it in depth. They try to bombard you with stuff. Cold email is very simple. Be straightforward with your intention. You have to state why you're reaching out and what's the purpose of this, right? So the common mistake that I see is, in short, apologies for that, but the common mistake that I see on cold email space is they write bulky messages. So imagine this, right? I'm a stranger, I'm reaching out to you, and suddenly you receive a whole paragraph, long messages tailored towards you. Well, so imagine in your perspective, right? I'm pulling up my phone, checking in my email, and then I see from a random person that I'm scrolling a whole blocks of messages that I don't even understand. I'm gone. My attention will be gone from there, right? Because who are you? Why are you sending this? Like, you have to think in front of their eyes. But on another case where you can be direct with your intention, this is my intention, why I reach out. Would you like this? Yes or no, right? So if I could be more direct, pull up my phone, and then the prospect reads 1 to 2 sentences of emails where I could portray what we do, how we found you. This is what we want. Do you want this or do you want or no, right? So if they read it, it would only take them 3 to 5 seconds, right? To read their first sentences. Okay, interesting. Then they go through it. Then here's the call to action. Then you can now receive a response. Okay, I'm interested. Tell me more about it. Okay, I'm interested. Let's hop on a meeting, right? Because the purpose of the first email is to get the responses, not to pitch the whole conversation. That's the main mistake. Don't pitch the whole conversation. We don't care. You don't even know if that prospect wants to know your whole paragraph. They don't want to know why your company history. They don't want to know that. If they're interested in what you're selling and offering, sure, they would do the research, go to your website, go through it, and think through it, right? But on the first email, you cannot do that. You cannot simply do that because they're not interested. You would simply lose the prospect, and waste their time because they'll simply swipe left or, I don't know, read through the next email. So to summarize this overall, I wanted to point out, do not send bulky messages. The next point I wanted to make there is, do not send any links because it affects deliverability. So avoid any links, any pictures attached to it, especially on the first email. Because you have to imagine this, I am Google, a random person right here, random person A, is sending a bunch of links, emails, and pictures to another random person B. What does this even mean? What are you doing, bro? What are you doing? Like, Google would seem like, okay, and in today's world, you may be familiar that there's a bunch of phishing scams out there. So unless this random person A trusts, or no, the other way around, where unless the random person B responds to this random person A, that they may have conversation. Now Google would seem, okay, these two guys are talking to each other. They're not doing anything wrong. They're just talking to each other. Rather than sending a bunch of phishing scams, things like that. It seems fishy. That's why, as much as possible, no links, no pictures, just clean, plain text stating what you want and with a call to action so that you can trigger the response, okay? And after that, you can send as much links as you want, as long as it's necessary, of course, right? Now, that's the first step. If I get your response to the first email and you ask me if you're interested, okay, are you asking for an information? Are you asking for pricing? Okay, maybe you're ready to hop on a call, things like that, right? And within those scenarios, you can now respond it with the intent of getting them to another stage, which in our case, with a B2B space, we always get them on a sales call. The main purpose of our business model is to help business one connect with business two through a sales appointments. We connect people, right? Because with connecting people, they can make deals, get the return overall, and then we share a piece of the pie there, and then basically we make our clients happy so that we can make the piece of the pie ourselves, right? So that's the whole premise of the business. But so with our intention, we always keep in mind that whenever you send an email and someone responds to you, the next goal that you have to make there, whatever they respond, the main purpose of your reply is to get them on a sales call so that we can pitch them a deal, pitch our services. If they want it, let's make it happen, close the deal, make a contract, make some money, right? That's the purpose of the business. So, common mistakes, to summarize, don't send bulky messages, don't send links, don't send pictures, things like that. That's it. Absolutely. Now, with personalization, the main thing that you have to remember there is so a common mistake that I see online is that you have to personalize everything. What we do found is within this, there's even a prompts where we use an AI to personalize emails based on their LinkedIn profiles. It's way too much. So here's the thing. I do not completely use personalizations at that level, but here's the but. We use Spintax. Spintax is basically trying to switch up the words every time it sends to another person. Okay? So let's give you an example. I got email 1, email 2, email 3. This is John, this is Dave, this is Luke. With John, an email would look like something, hey John, this is my email, blah, 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 blah. Right? With David, it would look something like, hi John, this is my email, blah, 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 blah. With Luke, it would look like something, hello Luke, this is my email, blah, 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 blah. So, Spintaxing those stuff. Now, that's the basic idea of it, but feel free to expand your mind and use it to your email. So you could Spintax the way you phrase your offer. Maybe if on my case, I could pitch something like, We could help you with your cold outbound strategies. We could help you with our cold email strategies. So twist those words depending on your type of script that you're offering. Tailor what your intention is, why they should trust you, your call to action. So, and then be creative with it. Spin tax them, depending on the type of test that you want to achieve there, right? Now, that's what we do. And the purpose of the personalization at the first place is to, in front of the other person's eyes, you have to look as if you personalize this email specifically. We recently did that and we didn't see that much results. So that might be on our case. You could try it yourselves. But with the type of industry that we're into, it's better to be straightforward because we just have to state what we're offering. And especially with our most recent clients right now, right? We work with security guard companies, and it's better to just mention why they should trust us and then the type of companies that we're working with. And it's pretty simple. We work it, and then that's the type of personalization level to it that we add on our emails. How do you find the right target audience for your cold emails? That's a very good question. Now, I want to go back to what I've said previously, if you haven't heard it, but I was talking about defining your ICP or your ideal customer profile. Before you even launch a campaign, once you got your deliverability check, meaning you got your email set up, you got your domain set up, SPF, DKIM, DMARC, things like that. Your emails are sending, it's been warmed up, things like that. Now you gotta think on who is my ideal customer profile. Now there's multiple variations to this, right? But defining this would allow me to now, first, I know where to look now because I know who is this guy, who is your ICP. It allows me now on where to look. I'm talking about data providers. Do I go to Apollo, right? Do I go to Find Email, right? So things like that. Do I go to Zoom Info, Sales Navigator, ListKit? And then now, if you know your ICP, you can now tailor your message as well, because you know who to write to, meaning you know their words, do some research about their industry, things like that, know their pain points. I know now how to write cold emails for this, right? And the next one, how do you define this in the first place? So it takes research. It also takes realization with what you're currently into. So if a business approached me, I would ask them, okay, well, within your most recent clients, what industries are they from? Okay, and then in those industries, who are the usual decision makers that you talk to whenever you go to that meeting with them, right? And another thing is, once you go to that meeting with them, okay, well, how long does the deal cycle usually last? Well, did they refer you to anyone else? Well, are there any other industries that might be potentially fit within our criteria, but you haven't touched yet? So expanding those stuff, gathering the information, because on most cases, I'm an expert on what I do, which is cold email, but my clients are expert in their business. They do that for a living. I'm just helping them to get more clients. So meaning they know what they do. Meaning if they know information around there that they could potentially make money from, I would help them because I'm the connector, right? So I would ask the client, hey client, well, what type of industries are they currently at, right? So, well, keywords wise, do you use specific keywords when talking? How do you usually do this? Things like that, right? So after you gather those data points, you can now filter those out and go to providers. I gave you an example earlier. I now know that if I have this, I have the job titles, I have the company keywords, I have the employee count, I have the industries. I can now go to Apollo, go to ListKit, things like that, and filter them out, right? The main purpose of this is now testing. Because if you now know how to find your ideal ICP, It's now a matter of testing. Okay, well, I got this data. Does the email provider A works or the email provider B works? So I got to put this test to the place. Okay, well, I know who I want to reach out to, but in terms of quality, which is getting me the most results? Is it A, B, C? Okay, let me run a test to it. Boom, place a campaign, 3,000 each, good maximum. Okay, well, the email A didn't get any bookings. Email B got 5 bookings and email C got 3 bookings. Okay, let's eliminate this then. So you now got to think, okay, you know where to find, you know who you're looking for, but now where do you reach out to them? Okay, you know this person, but where in the world are they? Where can I find them? That's the key. If you can now find them, you can now go to that provider. Okay, let me scrape a bunch more and then cycle it as much as possible. Because after you filter them out, launch your campaign, write the messaging to it, reach out to them. If they respond back, book them a meeting, close more appointments, and then if you can close more appointments, get them through the deal, make more money. So that's the whole process of it. So in terms of the idea behind it is, once you know who you want to target, you got to find the right provider to it, and now you gotta send as much more volume, because now it's just a volumes game. If I know in my mind that within this data being allocated, every 1,000 emails that I send, I get 1 booking, and every 5 bookings that I get, I close 1 deal. Now it's just a matter of volumes game. Okay, 1,000 is equal to 1 meeting, and 5,000 emails is equal to 1 sale, right? Okay, well, we have to hit 5 sales this month. 5,000 multiplied by 5, and then that's it, 25,000 emails. Okay, now how do you get the 25,000 emails? Okay, you got to send this amount of email inboxes and this amount of domains. Let's set that up, warm them up, make them sure, boom, hold email, volumes game, boom, get the responses, get that dialed in. It's a complete process once you lock that in. But as easy as it sounds, there's complications to it. That's why there's tons of businesses out there that they're trying this alone and haven't seen success with it, because we do this for a living. We do this every day. We know the type of responses that we're getting and how to handle them, how to diagnose them. Okay, seems easy because I'm just sending an email. Okay, well, you're sending 10,000 emails. How do you do that? How do you make sure that you're not landing in the spam folder, right? Subject lines are pretty straightforward. We use the classic quick question. You can also use thoughts, first name. You can also use company name, X, my company name, intro. The purpose of this is not really to overcomplicate things. You just want to sell the click, right? Because you have to look in their own perspective. Let me pull up my phone. Okay, I'm checking my emails. Maybe I'm on my desktop checking my emails there. But the first thing that they see would be your title or the subject line, right? When they see the subject line, the purpose of your cold emails is just for them to click that subject line, because inside that subject line is the very important thing, which is your message, the body, right? So the tip here is to don't overcomplicate things. Try it out. So you could even go through the ways where you state your offer, where I'm trying to reach out about sales appointments, or maybe do the classic. So for example, on my case, right, I'm trying to offer appointments. I could ask something like, do you want appointments for X company? Question mark, right? Now, because that's what I'm offering. I'm offering, okay, this company fits my criteria. I want to offer them my services. What is my services? Appointments, right? Cold email. I get appointments via cold email. I'm selling the appointments, the sales meetings, right? So don't overcomplicate it, because once they click on it, they will read your messages, and then if they see that it is something for them and they could benefit to it, and if you have a solid offer in place, you have the deliverability right, it's done. There's no secret to it. It's just pretty much straightforward. Send the email and then write the subject line pretty clearly. Thoughts? Question mark. Thoughts, Lois? Thoughts, Jacob? Right? Things like that. Open rates. That's a very interesting question because a client of mine previously asked me, how do we maintain the open rate? Well, to be honest with you, we don't even track open rates. It's a common misconception around the cold email space where you have to track your open rates, your link clicks, right? Like your click rate, things like that. The main metric that you should even track at the first place is email to booking ratio. The main purpose of the cold email, don't overcomplicate things. The main purpose of the email that you're sending is to get them on the phone so that you can pitch them your services, right? Now, within those metrics lying around over tracking too much, if you don't even know how many emails you have to send before getting your appointments, you don't run a campaign, because that's the purpose of it. Don't overcomplicate this. Don't track the cold email tracking rate or open rate, right? The click rate, we don't even track that. So we use a platform, a sending platform, SmartLead, shout out to you SmartLead, where we just send plain text. Don't track open rate, things like that, right? Plain text, simple, to keep the deliverability clean, and then making sure that it is even landing on the right inbox. Now, from there, it's just pretty much simple. If I could get a person X amount of meetings with sending X amount of emails, okay, it's pretty much simple from there. Could I improve this? Okay, maybe I could improve the copy, maybe improve the list so that I can get it down even better, then that's good. But as long as I have a number right here, I could keep following that and send a bunch more volume. Because the optional part of me would be to even digest it down. That's an optional thing to do. But as long as I got that data, that in every 1,000 emails that I send, I have to get one appointment, then that's even good. Because now you know that whenever you send X amount of emails, you get one appointment. Don't track open rates. Don't track click rates, whatever that is. And just focus on the main metric, email to booking ratio. That's it. That's a very good question. Now, in terms of structure, well, it's pretty much simple, right? Before you even launch a campaign, you need a list, you need the email inboxes, and you need the copy. Once you got those dialed in, the replies will start to come in, and this may sound interesting to you, but our inbox manager, we have placed a bunch of email templates that allow us to respond quickly on a timely manner to the prospect, right? So the usual responses that we're getting is either they're not interested, the bad, the neutral would be something like, or they're not interested, the do not contact, this is the bad side, or we call it the bad leads, right? Now, the neutral part would something like out of offices, you could reach them out after 10 days again, or after the time that they come back. And then referrals, so if they refer you to something, I'm not the right person to reach out to Y, right? This is the neutral parts. The good side would be something like meeting requests, if they're already responding to the meetings, if they're requesting for informations, if they're interested, things like that. Now, within those three categories, you can now set templates for each. Okay, you want to avoid replying if they said do not contact me or unsubscribe, or if they're angry that you emailed them in the first place. Don't push them. They already said no. Okay, that's the only time that we stop, is if they said no. But on the good side, if they are a referral, or if they are a good metric, we now try to do our job, which is to reach out to the potential leads, that they refer to. That may be a person. We get a bunch of success with this, which means if we reach out to X, we get an appointment. So those referrals are really good. This is something that you don't want to miss out, and this is something we take effort on as well. But the good side, this is where we really get the appointments, would be the leads, the interested leads, the meeting requests, the information requests. If they're requesting for information, okay, what type of information do you usually get? Okay, what do you do? Well, what's your pricing? How can I learn more? What's the next steps? Things like that. So you can get all of this by actually knowing your data. That's it. Like, send a bunch of emails, try to see what type of responses am I getting usually. On our case, how much is the pricing? Okay, well, our call to action is watch the video. Where's the video? Okay, well, how can I book a meeting? This is the link. What time are you available? Make it easy for them, right? Now, after I get those, okay, I got this 3 types of responses. What type of responses do I usually reply to them? Maybe I can write a template to that, right? So, because as long as the process is simple, it's pretty much the same thing, right? If I could make that seamless, if I could make it fast, but still being effective to it, making the scripts still the efficient quality level that I could send to the prospect that's interested, get them to book in a meeting. That is my agenda, to book in a meeting with them, okay? Then if they requested for an information, here is our pricing. Let's talk over the phone to discuss more details. Things like that, right? So focus on the agenda, address the response. If they have a question, make sure to address that, and then transition in what you want to achieve in this conversation, which is to book a meeting in our case, right? So things like that. Absolutely. So within our most recent months, last month we closed 2 additional clients in our agency, which is a really successful month with us. We're now growing in terms of company-wise and making sure that each and every client is being taken care of. Now, one of the most memorable one that I've seen is when I initially launched my campaigns, I was only thinking, okay, I got client A. Client A is really a good client. We've been working for 3 years now. Okay, I'm getting them consistent results. Could I get more variations of this client? I wrote up a plan. This is the plan. Let's follow it. Let's send a bunch of emails to this same client, same profile, same industry, same company size, to just find more variations of this client A, A1, A2, A3. And 3 months later, we're now growing, and then that's on trajectory to grow even further. But the main premise of it is, if you're now at a company level where you got a bunch of clients in different industries, you can now step back and take a look at the bigger picture. Okay, which of these clients are making the most headache but paying the less ones? Who is paying me the most? Okay, well, who am I getting the results consistently? Okay, well, is there a, so if you see those graphs where there's a connection, I don't know what the graph is called, but the circles, right? So is there a connection between this, the client that is paying the most and the client that's getting the most results? Can I bridge them together, or are they in the same industry? You can create those plans. I'm not saying that it's the only plan, but if you could analyze those, okay, well, this client is not even getting results and it's just causing me mental bandwidth. Maybe I could replace them with this, get a bunch more. It will be easier, more scalable, more good for business. Now, if you could get those straight up, then you can now create a plan. That's what I did, and now it's growing. So, and now I'm not saying that this is just my final strategy, but initially when you're growing, you have to analyze on the bigger picture. Where do I want to go, right? Multiple directions, but knowing your strategy before even taking another step would be good for your business. Cold emailing skills. It's pretty much simple. You have to practice writing, because there's different tonalities in terms of cold email space. You have to know, you have to be familiar with the words, how you structure the email, make sure you respond to it. And then I would say that it all goes through practice, because if you imagine this, right? When you started going to the gym, you don't really have a clue on what to pick, what's your workout. It's kind of the same thing, right? Because in cold email, okay, well, cold email is a very simple thing. If you look at it, I have an email, personal email, send it through them. The complicated part is you're now doing it at a larger scale, completely larger scale, right? That's what makes it complicated. Okay, then how do I even do, how can I improve that then? Well, if you send a bunch of emails, you now got to respond to them, okay? Well, can I practice how I respond to it? Because how I respond is another thing that could turn into appointments, which is the main goal of it. Think of this, right? Because when you write the scripts, it's only a one-time thing that you write it up. The main daily task that you have to do is, if you send 10,000 emails, you expect at least one of them to respond, but you're getting hundreds of them responding to. So if you manage to do that, now you got to handle how to respond to this. Maybe you practice how you write. Okay, can I transition this into getting an appointment if I do this? Things like that. Now, if I can practice that, putting in the reps daily, okay, this is wrong. They did not allow it. Let me test this. They might want to go to a sales appointments if I test this, right? Okay, they're asking for pricing. Should I tell the pricing directly, or should I tell it at a different conversation? Maybe test those out. Okay, I have found out that this works. Let me try it again. Okay, I got more data, then let's stick to this. So putting in the reps, because I may be saying A, but on your scenario, you haven't tested out. Well, how do you find out that B works, right? So getting those data points would be good, because you're now putting in the reps. You now know how to respond to these emails, but in terms of getting the responses accurately, you got to put in the reps. That is how you improve on cold email. And also, how you improve in cold email is not just by writing, but also the art of following up. If you got a prospect who made an inch of difference, you got to think on their point of view that they may be interested, but they don't have the time now. So maybe you could follow up next week, next month. Have they said no? Then why did you stop following up, right? So you got to think that way, because now I have closed deals way back 3-4 months ago, and then they were just not ready at that time. And then after I followed up, okay, let me try to reach out to this guy again. They were still looking. Okay, they're now ready to proceed. Let's close the deal. Because now you've been consistent, you've been around, you got that relationship with 3 months, and now you have this 3 months of familiarity with the prospect, which build them connections, right? So that's it. Improve those things, put in the reps, put in the hours, and then you can now transition into becoming a cold email expert.